Welcome to another episode of Sports After Dark podcast with David. Actually nailed the name. Actually going great. Nailed the podcast name. If you guys have been watching, I've been butchering this name for like the last 4 episodes. But welcome. We're glad to have you guys. I'm David.
And Kayla.
And yeah, man, we have been two busy people. We've been away for a while, but so much has happened. Football season is officially back. We want to talk about that. So much to unpack there, but we're going to let the kind of preseason play out a little bit and try to deep dive and get into some stuff. I have two fantasy leagues that are coming up. And Kayla, there was a rumor going around that you were almost in a league of ours, but, or you were interested. You were interested in being in a league. Oh, okay. So sidebar story. So we were in a group chats, me and some of the photos at WBAL. We still play in the league. I won this league last year. I remember I was stressing over it, but I had Jamar Chase and they let me have Ahmad St. Brown. Those two. I don't understand how they let me those fall into lap at picking fifth, but that happened. I won last year, and so Kyle, our former, this is our former editorial assignment editor. He left, but he was like, "Hey, guys, I can't do it this year." So they were like, "Oh yeah, well, Kayla's down for fantasy." I was like, "Yeah, bring Kayla in, come on." They're like, "No, Tori went in first." So we let Tori in because we didn't want to expand into a 10-member league, so it was 8, and so I'm in 2 of them. I'm in a paid competitive league, which I have to draft on my birthday, and then I drafted in our WNBA league on the 23rd. So I'm defending my championship. I'm evaluating talent right now. I feel like I am exhausted looking at all the preseason and practices to see, okay, is my pick? Is he panning out? Oh, he's injured. Who about this guy? Okay, he's showing promise. Okay, I have to keep an eye on him. Maybe he falls. That's really what you do when you play fantasy football throughout the years. It's like trying to get educated on the newcomers, trying to get educated on who has a contract, has something to play for, the circumstance. I mean, I think Cincinnati Bengals are still going to be high up because we saw yesterday against the Eagles, or I'm going to say Thursday against the Eagles, right? They had Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase playing in the preseason game, like. Kyle, I'm like, it's the first game of the season. I mean, I didn't say y'all don't have a defense, but geez. So, yeah, so much to unpack. I mean, we can go on and on, but, it's just a lot to kind of take in as the season goes. Kayla, how you been doing? You recently celebrated a birthday recently. I was teasing you off camera. I was saying you're 21 again. You're like, I'm content with where I'm at. But how was your birthday?
It was good. I had lunch with my family that I talked about in previous episodes, and then they surprised me by coming to WBAL. So I got to show them some coworkers and around the studio and what I do, and that was fun. Obviously, nobody really wants to work on their birthday, but right. I took the 2 days off following and was in Myrtle Beach. I parasailed for the first time. I did open ocean jet skiing, saw a Grammy-winning band by not even trying in a place that we went to dinner one night.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Myrtle Beach of all places, right?
Yeah. Okay. It was a lot of fun. Went by way too fast, but yeah, no, it's been a good couple weeks, so I'm also amping up to do fantasy drafts. I have to send out the finalized email for one of the leagues that I'm in because I'm a commissioner. Kind of glad that nobody asked me at WBAL. That's news for me that they were talking about having me in the league, but me and our nightside director, Doug, started a nightside league anyway, so that I didn't need to be in 2. But yeah, I probably will be in 4 or 5 this year, which is down from previous years. Actually.
Okay. Oh, this is down for you?
Yep.
I'm in 2, and I think that's insane. I'm like, one of them is like, we got to put money down. I think everybody's putting in $40. It's a 10-person league. 12-person league. So you literally have no room for error. I'm sitting here like, okay, I really got to be strategic with these picks because most likely somebody I want's probably going to be gone, depending on when I'm picking. So, but that is life when football season comes around. Guys, it's football season in a couple weeks. Like, we're really playing preseason ball. I think in the next couple weeks or so, you'll start seeing college football games on. And speaking of college football, just a sidebar, I had to kind of throw this in. But, because I'm a guy, my girlfriend rolls her eyes. She's like, already, you can't give her a rest. I'm like, what do you mean? This is as close as I'm going to get to football. So if you watch Netflix or if you've seen Netflix, there is a series out right now, 7 episodes called Any Given Saturday. It's about pretty much the SEC football conference. They chose about 7 teams to highlight. It's kind of like what the Hard Knocks is, but they did it for multiple teams. So it was really cool to see these college kids and kind of see how it is for these kids to play on high pressure, one of the better conferences in college football, a conference I believe statistically that drafted 89 players last year, 16 of them within the first round. And you're seeing some of these guys, right? Within the SEC, but it's crazy how, like, again, they're playing professional level players on a weekly basis, even in teams that aren't like they're mid or that aren't good. And you're seeing the preparation that goes into it. And literally, it's Any Given Saturday. You've had, I think the biggest one last year was, obviously, we all remember when Alabama got beat by Vanderbilt. And they had Vanderbilt talking about, where they came from. People remember Vanderbilt was horrible. They stunk. They were trash, right? And they got a new coach that came in the last 2 years, who's really building up that program. And he talks about like the journey of like, hey, we had to start from nothing to get to this point and to get this win over Alabama. That's a game-changing, program-shifting win, and it's good for recruits. And you hear all the NIL stuff, right? I think LSU, Brian Kelly was talking about how his quarterback had the same agent as him and communicated to him that he was potentially might leave to go to the draft, and he ended up staying and coming back this year to try to win a national championship. So really cool series. I have enjoyed it. I don't know. I'm probably doing them a favor by promoting this, right? But it just had my attention. It was just refreshing. I really like to hear from the younger kids who are getting paid way more money than we both are with NIL deals and everything else, and going through the whole college experience. But it was really cool to kind of see that and get to experience that. Any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I have heard of it. I haven't watched it. I know there's a couple football related shows out right now. One being Quarterback, the Buffalo Bills Hard Knocks debut.
Yep.
They're also doing a wide receiver series, kind of mirroring Quarterback, because there are a lot of players that I think people not only look up to but are really invested in, and that's kind of what the wide receiver documentary series aims to accomplish, I would say, just like Quarterback. There's just not enough time in the day in order to keep up with all of this. And to be honest, I care about doing my own fantasy football research a lot more than I do watching, Justin Jefferson or whatever from last season. And I sure as heck am not going to watch the Buffalo Bills Hard Knocks because I don't like watching them, period.
I don't blame you. Like I said, guys, football season's back. It's kind of, for me, it's kind of like the entree before the appetizer of football season. It's as close as we're going to get. It's exciting. It's a good time of the year. You can smell it in the air. It's, the weather's starting to get a little cooler at night. It's kind of at that peak end of the summer. Well, the fall summer, right? And then, it's going to be hot as hell come like the end of August and September when it's like 90 degrees or so. We're out there playing football, passing out, screaming at the top of our lungs, drinking beer, whatever you do. But, a lot to get into.
You don't do that normally?
Not anymore. I will tell you the sidebar story maybe on another episode of how I was the dedicated fan that supported the football team in the negative degree weather with no shirt on, with the school letters, just rocking out. Caught pneumonia the next day, so worth it. We lost 42-7, but hey, support the team. I will talk about that. Definitely something to talk about another time. But hey, we're going to throw some new segments at you guys. We always like to change it up here on Sports After Dark. Just kind of keep you guys guessing as to what we're going to do. And so we came up with this. We put this called The Catch, pretty much. I'm not sure if this was my segment. Was this my segment? Yes. Been a long week, guys. So basically in this segment, we're going to be looking at sports headlines that caught our eyes this week and react to them. Decide, switch up, from our wellness stuff, what we usually do, just kind of keep things honest. Obviously, it's cool to kind of tell you like what we're doing, kind of catch up, but it's a lot of stuff going on in the sports world since we last spoke here over the last week or week and a half. So we just want to kind of catch up on the headlines as a whole. And I'll go ahead and jump it off, right? They're playing tonight. I'm going to try to edit this and have this out before the game starts. But in a couple of hours before this kickoff, we're going to talk about Shedeur Sanders. Obviously, it's been a big buzz. They've been talking about it on First Take forever. They've been talking about on Fox forever. He's turning into the media darling. He's literally Johnny Football in terms of popularity and kind of the, hey, woe was me. Look, everything in preseason where it really doesn't matter. I mean, at the worst in preseason, you're talking about contract disputes. You're talking about, okay, who's the second and third string? Who's going to make the team? Those are the type of conversations we're having. We never talked about a fifth round pick in some time to this magnitude, probably since Tom Brady, at least, he was a sixth rounder guy. But so there's a whole notion going around that pretty much tonight, Shedeur Sanders is set to start, which is great. This is what everybody wanted, but he has not taken many snaps with the first team. And Coach Stefanski's pretty much Kevin Stefanski's already made it kind of clear not many first string guys have been playing tonight. But then when I take a look at it, because they're injured right now, I think they don't want to play Joe Flacco. He's a little old on the older side. I think Kenny Pickett has some things going on with him injury-wise. And the other kid that they draft is going to play, but he's not going to start. But the conspiracy theory is pretty much he was fourth on the depth chart, and they said he was going to start. And, he's not going to get much touches with the first string. So my thing is, real quick, it's a lot of the typical Browns news, right? I mean, it's the Browns, guys. I mean, I'm not saying this being a Steelers fan. I'm not going to hate, but I mean, they've never been organized and gotten this quarterback situation straight since they got Baker Mayfield. Even before that, they have found ways to squander this in their own way. They are the organization that gets in their own ways. And the owner came out and said, "Hey, this was my decision. This was Andrew's decision to draft him," and that was another thing. So you're watching somebody self-sabotage. And we don't know what they're self-sabotaging because we don't know what Shedeur looks like, right? Anybody can kind of look good against third and fourth string guys, but we'll get a chance to see what he looks like tonight. When they play, I think they're playing Carolina. Around there, so we'll get a chance to kind of see what he looks like. But I just don't feel like there's a conspiracy theory against Shedeur. I just think that it's overhyped by the media. He's just one of those figures to me that everything that he does and everything that he on the practice field and the stats he puts up is going to be, like I said, what I will say is it's a lot of pressure on him tonight because I think he has to go out there and actually produce. I don't think he can go out there and, toss for like less than 100 yards and have a pick. I think he has to throw for 150, maybe a touchdown, look promising, move the ball down the field. And then if he doesn't move up the depth chart, then I think you got something going on there. But I think it's a really interesting take. I think it's a lot of pressure on this kid that it shouldn't be. He's a fifth round pick at the end of the day. There's a reason for that, whether people want to believe it or not. But, your take on that, kid, what do you think?
Yeah, so I'm going to disagree with you for a majority of this. I don't think this is a headline. I don't even think this story matters, to be honest with you. You did hit on some good points, so for sake of conversation, that's what I will address. But basically right now, the only quarterbacks that the Browns are serious about are Joe Flacco and Shedeur Sanders, mainly because it's a veteran and then all of the headlines that Sanders is drawing. But both Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel are injured. It's why the Browns had to sign Snoop Huntley this past week. And he's basically on the roster right now as an emergency quarterback situation. They're not going to carry 5 into the regular season. They probably aren't going to carry 4. Huntley's just there so that we don't have, like the COVID year when Denver's wide receiver had to play quarterback. But in preseason, you don't need to play Joe Flacco as a veteran. He has way more experience than most quarterbacks in the league at this point. And you can't play Kenny Pickett and you can't play Dylan Gabriel and you're not going to play Tyler Huntley, who's your emergency situation. So the only quarterback that you can really play is Shedeur Sanders. And so, you want to get him the reps, you want to get him game experience. That's what all of this outrage has been with Sanders. He needs to play, he needs to be with the first team. Do I think he could have spent more time with the first team in practice and training camp? Absolutely. But you're not going to know what you have in somebody unless you just throw them out there. Like the only benefit the Browns have in this game is to play people that they still have questions about. You don't have questions about Joe Flacco. You have questions about Shedeur Sanders. And I believe even if Dylan Gabriel or Kenny Pickett was healthy, we would see him anyway. So I think, fans can't be calling that, oh, he needs to get playing time. He needs to do this. He needs to do that. And then be upset when what they called for, they're getting. So I also think that like preseason doesn't mean anything. I mean, the Dolphins, could win every preseason game like they have before and be shit in the regular season. Like
Pittsburgh went 0-3 last year.
Right, exactly. A preseason record doesn't matter. Preseason, it's a tryout for the final spots that are open on your roster. I'm pretty sure after every preseason week, rosters have to do cutdowns anyway until you get to the 53-man roster. So at the end of the day, like Sanders is not going to be cut. He's going to make the team. Whether he, starts week 1, who knows? Maybe that's what they're going to be able to start determining after he plays tonight. But I don't know. I don't care. I just don't.
No, that's real. That's real. And I think, again, I just think this is an incredible amount of pressure to put on a rookie. I mean, Kenny Shedeur, he showed he's can in his college career. I think people have to, the major audience of the NFL has to see it. But we talked about it ad nauseum, and we're going to see what he does tonight. I mean, obviously, like I said, if he goes out there, throws for $115 a touchdown, I think he answers the questions to at least be in the top 3 in the rotation. And if not, I mean, maybe you wave him out there for a trade bait. I mean, New Orleans might need another quarterback. You never know. There's some teams out there that they realize, hey, we have some situations come up, so let's just throw some draft picks, throw some trade bait out there, kind of see what happens and go from there. You had some MLB news. Get into it.
Yeah. So my eye-catching headline in this segment is that Major League Baseball is calling up the first female umpire to ever get behind home plate in a major league game. Which, when I heard that, I was like super excited. And even though in my mind I know that I've never seen a woman behind the plate, I was like, we really haven't had one ever.
That's crazy.
And I think it's overdue. But this woman, her name is Jen Pawal, and she is going to be working 2 games this weekend, a doubleheader between the Miami Marlins and the Atlanta Braves. There was a stat that I saw. This move comes 28 years after the gender barrier for game officials was broken in the NBA, 10 years after the gender barrier ended in the NFL, and 3 years after the Men's Soccer World Cup had a female referee. So they're definitely behind the times, especially if you're going to go with the gender barrier number. But the reason that Major League Baseball is doing this is, umps are allowed to take vacations. They're allowed to be injured. They're allowed to not be at a game. They have 76 full-time staff umpires, but they do use the fill-ins for these, vacations, injuries, other things that come to mind. So Pawal was, an all-state softball and soccer player growing up. She even played college ball at Hofstra, softball, I should say. She was on the USA Baseball Women's National Team in 2001. So it's not like we're just throwing a woman out there. We are throwing a woman out there with experience, and I think this is just long overdue for Major League Baseball.
Man, I think that's really cool. But when I was reading up on that, I was really just like you. I was shocked. I was like, this hasn't happened already. We've had NFL where we're starting to get, female referees in there. I know I don't think we've had a female umpire yet in the NFL, but we've had head coaches, we got assistant coaches in the NBA that are women, and so it's just shocking, I guess, that hasn't happened yet. I'm excited for the MLB. I think that's really awesome. I can't wait to see how she calls it. And you assholes who are in the stands, be nice. Like, look, hey, at the end of the day, the men don't get it right all the time. Okay, we call balls that should be strikes. Cut her some slack. But at the end of the day, nobody's perfect. I mean, these games, the ball moves at 90-some miles an hour. I don't know if you actually stood behind that. That is a blur. You can't see it half the time. You have to make a split-second call, and most of the time these umpires do a good job. If they can't decipher it, they're going to go huddle up, go look at the replay and make sure they make the right call and just kind of go from there. But I do think this is exciting. I think this is a move in the right direction for making sure that we integrate and really allow women to come into male-dominated spaces and really take this thing to the next level. Because I mean, it's needed. Don't get me wrong, I love men, but it's just like we all get in the area. It's like no, women. We have diehard women who love sports too, just like Kayla. You love it too. I mean, it's not unheard of, and I think we should really, honor that. That's really awesome. So I can't wait to see. I'm gonna actually tune into the game and see how she does. And I'm not even like a big giant fan or anything like that, but just for the fact to see history made, that's really awesome.
Yeah, I think it would be cool to just see, how they introduce her, what kind of coverage they get. In all honesty, I want the coverage to be aside from being like, hey, this is Jen Poole.
Yeah.
I want it to be just like any other game. You don't need to put too much emphasis on it. It's something that, like, while it's exciting, just let it play out. She doesn't need any more pressure than she's going to get. I'm sure there's going to be people who argue with her.
Yeah.
I've already seen so many comments about what happens if we got to overturn her call. What kind of backlash is she going to get? Well, it doesn't matter. All of the umps get backlash. All of the umps get heckled. Like, I just want her to be able to go out there, not get injured, complete the game, make the calls, and just have all 18 innings go however they're meant to go.
Yeah, hands down. All right, guys, we're going to hit you guys with another segment today called Whoa, 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 Rewind That. And basically, this is your segment. Tell us a little bit about whoa. Rewind that.
Yeah, so kind of like the headline series that we just debuted. In this segment, we're just basically looking back on major headlines to rewind and talk about further because it impacted so many people. And the greatest thing that came about since we were off was the MLB trade deadline. It had a historic number of people traded on the final day before the deadline. But before we jump into that, David did bring up a headline in this segment that we want to rewind, but I don't want to kind of go baseball, football, baseball, whatever. So he wanted to bring up Cam Hayward and Micah Parsons, who play for the Steelers and Cowboys respectively, for their money. Are they being too greedy? So we're going to start with that. We're going to rewind, talk about their contracts, their feuds, why they've been in the news, all that good stuff.
Cam Hayward wants a new. Well, he doesn't want. Let me really explain this because I think it's being kind of misconstrued what he's asking for. He wants to rework his deal. He is fine with the deal he has. What he wants to do is move more money that he's getting paid next year to this year, which is not unheard of because I think he's paying attention to the defensive line market, which has skyrocketed this last offseason. You've had 4 defensive ends and defensive linemen get paid hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And I think it just rubs Steeler fans the wrong way because it's like, hey, we just paid you last season. We came to the table, gave you your number. Come on, dude, you got a $13 million bonus in March. And the Steelers have been, really good to you to make sure you retire a Steeler. And so it's not ideal because he is one of our team leaders on the defensive side of the ball. And you look at his production at his age, he's creeping up to that 36, 35. You ask, how much does he have in the tank? We've already kind of drafted his replacements. We got 2 rookies that are coming in. One we took in the first round. So pretty much the writing is on the wall of like, hey, dude, your career is winding down. We gave you that good old Pittsburgh Steeler, contract. We don't really give a lot of people. We're allowing you to be this few that kind of completes their full tenure as a Steeler and retires as a Steeler. So there's that. Then you got the Micah Parsons situation in Dallas, and that one is just it's typical Dallas, man, when it comes to Jerry Jones and how he handles his players. So Jerry, apparently has been just talking to Micah saying, hey, Micah, this is the deal I want to offer you. And I want to do it to where we just handle it between player and GM. Now, the problem with doing that is it's kind of like a no-no for the players because you should have some type of representation there. You want to make sure that, your representation is looking at the paper to make sure the deal is fair because we know in the NFL, we alluded to it in the collusion case, right? There's a lot of things you can put into these deals and a lot of tricky languages that exceed the vocabulary. To be honest, half these players didn't go to class like that. So it's not like they're going to be understanding what's going on or what's happening. So they have openly threw mud at each other. Parsons pretty much has openly said he turned his request to request a trade. from the Dallas Cowboys, and Jerry Jones says, don't take this too, don't take too much on this. It's fine. I'm going to pay him. Does he deserve this type of money? His production says yes. Now, if you're a Cowboy fan, you might have some type of, hand pause about it because you're like, you know what? He hasn't really been that great for us down in certain stretches. He's not the best run guy. You get it, he disappears sometimes against some more elite teams in the league. But overall, stats say he's a top 3 edge rusher in the league behind Garrett and TJ Watt. So he's right there in the mix. You can debate over which ones you want. The comment section, whatever you want to do there. But this is all about money. Then this is welcome to the league. This year is all about the defensive line. The defensive line is trying to get paid, and rightfully so, because those guys do the dirty work. When you don't have a defensive line that can get after the quarterback, and you don't get pressure, in this league you get picked apart. My thing with it is for Cam Hayward, I just question like, hey, dude, it's the end of your career. What do you want to do? I don't think it's the biggest deal, but it's like, how many mountains are we moving? I know you want to stay within the realm of what the rest of the defensive linemen are getting paid, but these guys are like 22, 23, 24, you're 36, 35, you're getting ready to exit pretty soon. It's like, what, your priorities here, you're trying to go win a ring over these next 2 seasons. You have 2 more years left in your contract and 2 more years before you said you're going to retire. So what's the priority here? We can switch this deal. I mean, I think, Omar Khan is a stand-up guy, so I think he ends up giving him that, the rework of his contract, but nothing more. I don't want to see, like $18-20 million for old Cam Hayward. It's fiscally irresponsible for the Steelers, and it's not in the best interest for them because next year they're going to have a whole bunch of holes to fill because you got a lot of free agents that are coming up on at the end of their deals after this year. And then for Micah Parsons, it's like, come on, Jerry Jones, what are you doing? Like, this is why I think Jerry Jones just loves the stage of like, I want the Cowboys to be on the stage at all times. Like, they got to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. He's taking on that mantra of good, bad, whatever. As long as you're talking about the Dallas Cowboys, is all that matters. But this is bad press. You don't want to piss off your star defensive lineman right before you got to go play the Eagles in a couple of weeks, and even to start the season, because you have aspirations to go win. You're under pressure to go get back to the NFC Championship game at the very least. And you want to take care of your star defensive lineman because you struggled without him when he wasn't in the games that you needed last year. So, again, Jerry Jones being Jerry Jones, that's just my 2 cents on it. It really is.
Yeah, so you said a lot of great things. The only thing that I can really say for Cam Hayward is that maybe in his mind, if the Steelers win the Super Bowl this year with all the moves that they've made, then he's done. So maybe he really believes that is a goal within striking distance. On paper, sure. But how the rest of the season goes, who knows? But to play devil's advocate, he may want that money now because he knows that if they win the Super Bowl, then he's going to be done.
Right.
As well as Micah Parsons, obviously, if Jerry Jones doesn't make some of the comments that he's made to the media, or Micah Parsons hasn't posted a couple of his posts online, we wouldn't know as much about this situation as we do. I do find it interesting. CBS Sports is reporting that it's been almost 10 days now that since Jerry Jones and Micah Parsons have talked anything about negotiations, whether that's trade request, new contract, whatever. I do think that trade requests, people kind of blow them out of proportion. I think players say that they want to request it in order to make a deal get done quicker. We're seeing that with Terry McLaurin right now. I cannot see McLaurin playing for another team at this point. And we saw what happened with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Sorry, what'd you say?
It would be stupid if the Commanders let him walk.
Yeah.
Who else is Daniels throwing to?
Right. And we saw with Lamar Jackson, like when he requested a trade, how he cashed in. So I think it's to call the bluff of the team, and you put in a trade request and they trade you, well then fine. That's how it was meant to be. If you get paid that way, like, is that shitty? Sure. But at the end of the day, you did request it. So I think there's a balance thing here, but I look at trade requests with a grain of salt. Now that I'm older, and now that we see what happens after these requests come in. I do think it's interesting that Jerry Jones made a comment about how they will ultimately mail him in with their future as a challenge. but he's built for it, I'm built for it. So it already makes it seem like he's trying to figure out a way to not pay him. That's what that quote and message says to me. Yeah, I'm built for it. I know that he can negotiate with me, but like, do I really want to do that for a long-term plan? Are there cheaper options? Is he worth it? And I also know that he hasn't spoken to Micah Parsons' agent either, which is strange, I guess, in my opinion. That's not how a successful team operates. And based on how the Cowboys have been for as long as I've been alive, that checks out.
Yeah. So moving forward, obviously, Cam Hayward is not playing. He's been ruled out this weekend against the Jaguars. And Jerry Jones has already came out and said that he will not see Micah Parsons for the remainder of the preseason, potentially even the first game, he says, until saying that it's completely up to Parsons, which I don't know what that means because the guy's told you he wants to be a Cowboy. So we'll see how those play out, and we'll keep a watchful eye out for both of those developments. Before we get into the rest of our MLB, and I'll fire off a rant. Obviously, you see the name, you see where I'm going to go with this. Before I tear the O's a new one for what they did to Mullins, we got to talk about this weird story, right? So if you have been keeping up with the WNBA, I'm not gonna lie to you guys.
I'm sorry, I did skip over that.
No, you're good. I wanted to get this out the way because I know this is the last non-baseball story before we get into kind of what's going on around the league. And for you guys that don't know what's going on, there have been several incidents since the end of July of dildos, like literally dildos. Sorry, guys, sex toys, whatever you want to call it. This is YouTube. We got to be kid friendly. They do sex are awesome. So sex toys that are being thrown onto the court. One actually hit a Beavers player in the game on the arm, which is crazy. And I'm not going to take the outrage of like being upset because I mean, obviously, this is a troll. Being a troll is idiotic. It's disrespectful on so many levels. I mean, for me, the lengths you have to go to get that type of a sex toy into the arena, which means like you stuffed this in your pants or you're doing something crazy, and then the effort to pull this.
I've heard the pants are a good place for sex toys.
So where, you know what I mean? So wherever you got this, hold on, Kayla, you have frozen. Oh God, hold on. Remove you. Let me see if that helped you. I just want to make sure that, okay, now you've gone dark. What is going on?
I can see me.
Yeah, she went black on this end.
I'll come back in.
Yeah, just come back in. So while this is all this stuff is going on with sex toys being thrown on, I'm just like, the effort you have to go to get this on in the arena, then pull this out, throw this out onto the floor without getting caught by security. It's just like, it's crazy. It's crazy work. And then like, imagine you have to go to court and you have to talk about this. Like you literally have to, go to court and be like, oh yeah, I threw a green dildo on the court as a prank. Like it's just bad. It's bad all the way around. I just think that it shouldn't be happening. Okay, Kayla's back. Hold on, guys. Let me get her up here. Hope this works. Okay, we see Kayla. All right, Kayla, you're back. Sorry, yeah, you just froze on me and then it just went to black. I just want to make sure that people.
I don't know. It seems to happen every episode, but I'm always in my house. So
it's all good. It's all good. So I was just at the point of just like the kind of setting this up. But basically, there was a new development like yesterday that I'm going to share real quick so we can kind of talk about this because this is like, I mean, this is almost on the level of the collusion stuff that you brought up. Like, I was just like, what is going on in pretty much the world of sports right now? So basically, it came out recently, and I'm referencing the Yahoo Sports article that just came out that apparently cryptocurrency has something to do with pretty much this whole prank that's going on in the WNBA with dildos going on the floor. And so what they go on to kind of say, I'll read a little bit of it and then I'll kind of open the floor up just for reaction. But per USA Today, the supposedly lighthearted meme coin was launched on July 18th as a counter to what a group considers a toxic environment in the crypto world. So the group coordinated plans to enter WNBA arenas with green sex toys to promote the launch, according to the text messages obtained by USA Today. The first sex toy incident took place on July 29th, the day after the launch. So basically, because there was a internal issue within cryptocurrency, they decided to play a prank, which doesn't make sense. I don't even know if this story has legs. I really don't. I just feel like this is a troll as well. But why would you then take it out with WNBA players that are just trying to entertain, give us a good game, and they got to worry about dodging a sex toy they don't know. They don't even know where it's been. It's just crazy. What are your thoughts on that when you read it?
Yeah, I don't know if this is cryptocurrency. I don't know.
It doesn't make sense. I was like, it's no way. It's no way. If it is real, 2025 is not.
I'm not going to go into why. Yeah, and I'm not going to go into why dildos make sense for the WNBA either, because that's just a topic nobody wants to hear me talk about. I guess I'll take the stance of it wasn't meant to harm anyone. Well, like, duh. Neither was when the Bills fans threw ice at the players during different games, but you still get smacked in the face with some ice. You could get knocked out. So, yeah, we're just having fun throwing snow and ice, but, it's not going to hurt anybody. Bullshit. Like, you're launching some metal tool that is likely charged or has batteries in it. Those pose their own risks. So I think it's just a way for the WNBA to remain in headlines. They can't talk about Caitlin Clark right now. She's still out.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I don't know. It is an odd headline, and I get that's why we're talking about it. Yeah. But I have way more questions than answers, even after us discussing.
No, for sure. I'm going to reiterate, because you were out when I said this. I was like, imagine going to court because a player presses charges for assault, and you have to explain to the judge, like, yeah, judge, I was just playing around. My cryptocurrency wasn't doing too good, so I snuck a green dildo into the arena and just threw it on the court. Yeah, I didn't know it was going to hit him. Totally didn't know.
Yeah, as a judge, I'd be like, jail.
Underneath the jail, like, that's crazy. Like, you fans have got to stop. But it's already like we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but it's already bad for the WNBA players. They're demanding more money. They want their respect. They really want to be seen on par to not. It's kind of tough because the NBA makes more money and they're obviously the generator of their league. But guys, this doesn't help their case in terms of them trying to be taken as a serious league when they're having to dodge not only the basketball but an object that looks like a penis as well. You know what I mean? Come on. Let's be on that note. It's good segue. But let's get into some MLB news. Obviously, there was a big trade deadline that went in over the last week or so. O's. Oh my gosh. Look, I went to my first game a couple years ago. I was in Baltimore. I went to go see the O's play the Pirates. I saw Cedric Mullins for the first time. He hit a cycle in that game. He was downright one of the best players I ever seen live. I've seen a lot of good players on TV, but just like the experience of being there live, the electricity he brought to the stadium, and this team, the O's, who I don't know what they're doing at this point. I mean, they're clearly not going to make a wild card spot. They are on pace to maybe win 70 games if we're being nice. And it seems like they're trying to get younger, and I get it. They're trying to get pitching. I get it. We've been trying to get pitching for 3 years. I get it. But you don't trade away the guy that was getting this. I mean, you can honestly say Cedric Mullins probably got the O's like 8 games this year, just off of late game heroics, like a hit that kind of iced the game, or a home run that kind of saved them from a loss. Like, he's responsible for maybe 6 to 8 games this year for the O's to kind of keep them at least respectable and not like a completely like 40 and 60 or 40-70 type of team at this point in the season. So I'm just so frustrated because I'm like, he goes to the New York Mets and they basically get back a lot of pitching that can't help them right now because at this point in the season it's kind of like it is what it is. The pitching woes for the O's have been there and they've been very prevalent. And it's also, I mean, to give a caveat to the O's, they've been injured. They have not been able to stay healthy in the back end of their rotation. And this is why we are where we are in the season for the O's. They have not been able to, play defense or at least have good pitching enough to kind of keep teams honest. So when teams come in, you start seeing lopsided scores like 11-1 and like 18. I remember that game. And then we were losing to like bottom tier teams because we can't hold them. It's just really bad. So I still have this T-shirt for Cedric Mullins. I am frustrated. I am not a bit happy O's fan. I'm going to say it like Steven. I am not happy right now. I'm not happy at all. It's very bad. And I don't know what to do with this T-shirt, so it's going to be just hanging up in my room, and I'm going to look at it every day and be sad. I know Kayla just affirmed she did not want to do this topic because she didn't want to, unbandage the wounds. It's still fresh for me. But I said, you know what? We got to talk about this because I just had a problem. I know we're going to keep him next year because the O's we're going to be able to outbid bids and the teams of bigger budgets, which I get. But I'm just really sad to see him go. I think he was a cornerstone for Baltimore, and he's going to be for me.
Yeah, I mean, I have grown up in Maryland my whole life. I left for a few years after college and got some jobs. But, if my dad saw that it was a cheap ticket or a good deal growing up to go to an Orioles game, even the day of, we would go. And I remember, going to games when I was little. And then when I understood baseball more, Cedric Mullins was always there as an Oriole. And I would have to say that he was my favorite Oriole, and I'm a little bit more involved with them now that I work at a TV station that covers them extensively. That's their MLB market team. I was on vacation the day of the MLB trade deadline, and the day before I looked at my boss and I was like, what are we going to do if Mullins gets traded tomorrow? And she was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, it's the trade deadline, and he has a contract that the Orioles should not pay moving forward. I get that he's a staple in the organization. He's a fan favorite. He's a great player. But I'm like, what are we going to do if he gets traded? How are we going to cover that? And she was like, I'm going to leave it up to sports. And then, I came up from the beach. I didn't bring my phone down to the beach because why do you need it there? Came up from a text to her, and she, in all caps, you were right about Mullins. And I was like, yeah, no. And the reason for the trade is, yes, to get pitching prospects. And believe me, I know too much about when your team gives up their good players to get some pitching prospects. It happened to me on trade deadline day too, again. It's just a contract situation. And as much fun as it is at the end of the day, all major sports leagues are businesses. The Orioles were not going to pay that. And if you're Mullins, you're not going to restructure your deal either. You're too good. Yeah. So, yeah, I understand being upset. My favorite Oriole was probably Mullins. It sucks.
First it was Santander. I got to watch him play for Toronto. Now it's Mullins. I got to watch him play for the Mets. Just, we can't keep it. We can't afford it. Hopefully, I hope that the O's can start. I mean, we have $1 billion owner now. I mean, it's just time to start putting your money where your mouth is. These guys are starting to become talented. And I know you want to play certain guys. You want to become a farm system that depends on, the farm and bringing players up. But it's just like so frustrating. You have cornerstones. And if you want to win a World Series, you got to keep some of those guys around. Man, so we out west, they were very busy out there, right? With the Padres and everything else. They made an aggressive trade. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, so talking about what we're still trying to come to terms with as a fan, my favorite player for the Oakland A's, closer Mason Miller, was traded to the Padres, and I understand the return we got on paper looks great. But, the Padres got Mason Miller, J.P. Sears, former A and former Oriole Ramon Laureano, Ryan O'Hearn, Freddie Furman, all on the final day. They had 5 trades that were spanning 22 players, and they added 5 of them to their active roster before they won last Friday. And it's like, I don't know where they're getting this money from. I don't really know how all this works. But they added – they're chasing the Dodgers, right? So you have to be able to compete. You want to win the division. We've talked about this before. Getting the guys is obviously an upgrade. It'll help. It sends a message that they're ready to win. They're obviously going for it. I would say that they did have a flawed roster heading into the deadline, but I don't think that's the case anymore, especially after adding Mason Miller. between him and I'm trying to remember the name. Robert Suarez was the Padres closer this whole year. Between the two of them, they have 30 and 21, 51 saves between the two. And that's half the games for the Padres at this point, had that been Miller been with the Padres all season. So I think, they're going to deploy them as a 1-2. You don't want to see either one of them in the bullpen should it get there. They don't have to be the sole closer every night. You can throw both of them. So their team is stacked, whether they're hitting, whether they're pitching, whether they're fielding. It's crazy. I wish my team had money, but the Padres probably pay 5 people the same amount of money the A's pay their entire roster. So
yeah. And I mean, it's just for the A's. I mean, you guys are in limbo because you don't know if you're going to stay in Oakland or, obviously it's clear that you guys are trying to move pretty soon. So there's that. I pulled up kind of where we currently stand right now because you alluded to it earlier. I mean, this is a move to try to go for it. I mean, that you're chasing the Dodgers right now. The Dodgers on paper are the most talented team maybe out there in terms of name value, right? It has to be produced on the field, but when playoffs roll around, it's about leaning onto those names that have gotten you there and that you trust and that can kind of eke out those close games where it's just kind of like a 1 or 2 run difference, a 2-1 or a 1, just one of those nasty games where it's just about, leaning on pitching and just that one hit that can kind of be the difference maker. So I think the Padres now, they have become a power and a name to look out for come playoff time. This is about building for the playoffs. And I think that they went all in and they said, hey, we're going to go swing for the fences. We're going to trade away a bunch of folks. We're going to get on the phone with 2 other teams and just make it happen. And they moved a lot of assets around to put themselves in position to not only potentially chase first place in their division, but to be able to compete and make a good run in the playoffs. So it's going to look, I'm all for it from the standpoint of I want to see some good old California, great baseball out there. I don't think they get the love that they really deserve outside of the Dodgers, but you have some talented teams that are on the come up, I believe, that are going to be really, really good. Arizona being one of them, they're kind of been up and down this year, but they've kind of been in the mix. And I like, what I actually checked out the A's game when they played the Nats. My company took everybody, but I did catch it on TV, and I was like, okay, the A's, I see the vision. I said, I think if they move to Las Vegas or whatever they want to go, I think that's when they're going to hit their stride. They're going to be really, really good. But as a fan I know we're just like, I want it now. It's just not fun. But I just see this as a move for the playoffs for the Padres. I see the vision for them.
Yeah, and looking at the standings, only being 2 games back of the Dodgers, you have to remember that to begin the year, the Dodgers swept their first 4 series. Yep. So the Padres have been playing catch-up all year, and to only be 2 games back, it's going to be a dogfight for the last month or so of the season, 2 months. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be shocked if the National League Conference Finals were between the Dodgers and the Padres. They're the best teams. I know obviously it shows the Brewers, but the Brewers have an easier division than both the Dodgers and the Padres. So the fact that, they have those top records, there's more work that the Brewers have to do than the Padres and the Dodgers by far, whether that's on paper or just watching the game experience. So
I think so too. And I actually think the Padres can get it because I think the Dodgers are going to get to a certain point, and I think you're going to start seeing them kind of tell guys to start easing back. Hey, we got the playoffs. We don't want to get injured at the wrong time, right? So I think they have a chance to win this division. I truly do, because I think for the Dodgers, it's about getting back to the playoffs and making a deep run. That's what they're trying to get to. So I'd say they're going to fold games, but I just think that you're going to see more aggressive Padres. And at some point, if some guys start going down for the Dodgers, they might take their foot off the wheel and say, hey, let's get to 100, over 100 or at 100 and just, close into the playoffs. We know we can. We're going to win, our first series and get on a deep run. But very interesting to say the least as well. And then we have another trade, right, that happened with the Mariners. They had a good haul too, right?
Yeah, so talking about how the Diamondbacks are up there, they folded for this season. They not only traded top two bats, some would say, in Josh Naylor and Eugenio Suarez, but they traded them both in separate trades to the same team, the Seattle Mariners. Seattle's also chasing for the division title. For people who don't know, Josh Naylor is the major question mark that I had on offense for the Mariners was first base, and they acquired one of the best this season in Josh Naylor. I know he's dealing with a shoulder thing now, but he's already hit some homers. He's made the difference in close games for them. So then bringing in third baseman Eugenio Suarez just kind of speaks to the volume that they're trying to do with their bats. They are currently in a playoff position. They bring in Suarez, who has 36 home runs, to pair him with catcher Cal Raleigh, who's in the MVP consideration with 87 RBIs and more than 40 homers. I think Seattle acquired the best bats at the deadline. They're also former teammates this season, so they have that chemistry that they can bring to Seattle.
Yeah.
It's the best lineup the Mariners have had since I can remember, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't even think that's a question.
Yeah.
So I think adding them, it really sucks for the Diamondbacks who, have more than 50 wins already at the beginning of August. And, while you look at the Brewers who have 70, you're still playing in a division with the Dodgers and Padres, and you're above 500, and, you're making a case for being a team, but having three people come out of the same division and make the playoffs is unlikely, and I have to imagine they don't believe that they can overtake the Padres or the Dodgers, so they might as well have gotten the return that they did for both players, and I think that's the mindset that they were in.
I think I see the Mariners as a dark horse. I really do in the American League, because I think when you look at the American League side of, baseball, it's just wide open. I mean, the Blue Jays, they started strong, and then they kind of got knocked down to earth a little bit by the Yankees, and at a stretch in their, in their last 10 games are 5-5. They've had some struggles, right? Tigers, I mean, Detroit is solid, but they just haven't made that climb yet. And I think the Mariners just saw an opening where it's just like, hey, there's a lot of teams that are on the same level, the same tier. Let's go make a move that can kind of put us there, or even surpass that by a little bit, because everybody's on that kind of same level. And I think when you get to the playoffs, I mean, it can be anybody's day. I think the Mariners made a move understanding that. They made a move to try to, get more hitting in there, because they know that, hey, you're going to go up against some teams that, they may not have the best pitching, but you're going to have to be able to hit to score some points in the playoffs. So I like the move for the Mariners. I think it's good for them, because I think it's going to help them make some noise late. And I think it's going to help them, especially with two guys that have kind of been there. They have, like you said, they have good team chemistry. They can bring a culture with them that can help the Mariners turn their season around in the last stretch of this season. So I'm really excited to see what the American League is going to be, because I think it's we kind of alluded to it in the National League. I think it's going to be a California affair on that side. But I think in the American League, you can make a case for just about 4 teams, to potentially be in the final two to come out of that American. I mean, everybody has a case to me, but I think that you can't definitively say this team is the team to chase, because we've seen spots this year where, the Yankees look good for a time, then they haven't looked good so lately. They've had consistency issues, but the Red Sox, they look good, but then they made a trade, right? And they traded one of their better players. I don't understand that trade either, but I'm just sitting here like, and this is my guy. I talked about him. I talked about Raphael, and that trade that just Raphael Devers. That trade didn't make sense to me as well. Like, I just didn't understand that. So I don't know what the Red Sox are doing right now, but they're not clearly. They've kind of been all over
working.
I know. I'm just like, I don't. That's my guy. Like, he was one of your solid hitters. You trade him. Like, what are you doing, Rest? So I don't know. I don't know what the American side of the league of the division is going to do when it comes to the playoffs. I just think you're going to see a lot of teams come there, and I think it's going to be some upsets where you think like, oh, this team should crush this team, but it's just like any given day. I really do believe that. I think the Mariners definitely got better. I think they could go on a run late and make this thing really interesting.
Mm-hmm. And just like we said with the Padres, they're going for it with these moves. That's what the Mariners are doing as well. So I think there are a lot of commonalities and streamlines of why these teams made the moves that they did. And they're just showing their club and their fans that, hey, we're going to give you a chance to go win it all. And at the end of the day, as a sports fan, can't be upset about that.
Not at all. And that's the name of the game. You want to play to win the game. Play to win the game. All right. So with that being said, guys, there's a lot of stuff going on in the sports world. We know preseason's in full effect, so we'll definitely be talking about that. Me and Kayla obviously preparing for fantasy league, so we'll definitely talk about that soon. But stay with us again, guys. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in for Sports After Dark. I'm going to go pack because I got to go home, and you are going to the game. Speaking of which, right?
Yeah, I went to the A's game yesterday. I'm going to the A's game tonight. I'm not gonna jinx myself and give any of my thoughts about that. I'm gonna let the game play out. But yeah, got 3 tickets for tonight's game. Off work yesterday, off work today. I gotta go pack too. Going to Connecticut tomorrow. I'm gonna see my husband Luke Bryan, which is gonna be interesting because I'm bringing my boyfriend. So I don't really know how excited.
He's third willing.
Yes.
Oh no!
So I don't know
what a sport!
How that's gonna go, but I will say I'm pretty sure I know that he's the one because previous boyfriends have gotten insecure about Luke Bryan, and when I was like, he announced his tour, Nathan was like, "When do you want to go?" And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah. Hey man, we love that. I love that for you. But we're gonna go enjoy those festivities. We hope you do too. And we're gonna look at a lot of games and recap them next week. But for both of us, Caleb, myself, we're gonna go about our days. You guys have a good one. We will see you guys on the next one.